across the Village Media Network and now available wherever you get your favorite podcasts. This is Trillium Talk, a weekly look inside Ontario politics at Queen's Park with our team from the Trillium. Back with us this week is reporter Jack Cowan. Welcome back, Jack. Great as always to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Jack, landlord-tenant disputes were in the headlines this week for a couple of reasons, including a situation in Guelph that we'll get to shortly. First, though, Attorney General Doug Downey facing a slew of questions in a committee meeting after claiming the Landlord-Tenant Board is making progress on the backlog of tens of thousands of cases, progress to the tune of a whopping 6% improvement.
Yeah, so NDP MPP Kristen Wong-Tam was going pretty hard at the AG in the committee. They put to him that the backlog was around 53,000 cases, and he quickly corrected the MPP, said, no, actually, that's out of date by a year. It's now under 50,000, to which they essentially said, what's the big deal? That's still not much of an improvement.
And, Jack, things got a bit tense between Wong-Tam when they kept pressing the AG for answers in terms of what the strategy is moving forward, but clearly to little avail.
Yeah, they tried to get an answer on how exactly the government has a blueprint for moving this forward and getting the backlog down to zero. Downey wouldn't budge. He said one thing he did say was that the backlog is never zero. You know, even in the good times, it was there were still tens of thousands of cases in the backlog. It's just that things would be moving more smoothly back then. So he wouldn't really budge on what the blueprint is. He said there is a plan, but wouldn't say what it was. And at one point, he said, you know, we have 40% more hearings, but we have 40% more cases. There's more demand as we increase the number of adjudicators and try and get through the backlog. We're getting more cases coming in. So he said, if you can tell me how many people are going to apply to the Landlord and Tenant Board over the next 6 months, I'll tell you how many more cases we have to clear.
All right. Well, we'll keep our eyes on those numbers and see how they pan out over the next little while, Jack. Now to this wild story out of Guelph, which was covered by Village Media's Richard Vivian about a first-time home buyer who still hasn't moved into his home because of squatters.
Yeah, this was a pretty wild story. So he bought it sight unseen, and when he went to go pick up the key, they said there is no key, just walk in. And he found that a little strange, but he walked in and there were 10 people inside.
Now, Ryan Bedrosian is the homeowner, and his, of course, one of the 50,000 or so backlog cases the Landlord-Tenant Board is dealing with. He applied to have his case expedited, given that he's out of pocket about $50,000 in expenses since he took possession of the house. That was denied, but he does have a hearing coming up.
Yeah, so he has a hearing on June 18th, which is a heck of a lot better than it likely would have been, 1 or 2 years ago when people were waiting a couple of years in some cases for LTB hearings. So he's got that to look forward to. Obviously, there will be a process after that as well, and who knows how getting the people out will actually go, if indeed that is what the LTB says has to happen. One little tidbit I found interesting in the story was that they called him at one point, one of the people in the house, and offered him a deal where he would pay them $5,000 each and they would vacate. He countered with $1,300, and they said, take a hike. That's not going to cover rent anywhere else. So just a pretty bad situation, and I think everyone can, if they search their feelings, feel for everyone in this situation.
No question about that. All right, for the most comprehensive coverage of Ontario politics anywhere, log on and become a Trillium Insider today, and you can do just that at thetrillium.ca. Reporter Jack Cowan. Thanks for this, Jack. Have a great week.
Thanks so much for having me, Scott.